Okay, and 3, 2. Hey, and welcome everybody. Come on in and grab a seat at the bar. I'm your photo happy bartender.
Really? That was a great start.
Good start. Good talk, guys. See ya.
Take 2. Oh, I'm turning red already. And 3, 2. Hey, and welcome everybody. Come on in and grab a seat at the bar. I'm your photo happy hour bartender, Michael Mowbray, and joining me behind the bar are our regular bartenders, and we have a special guest today. But our regular bartenders are Dan Frievalt and Caylor. Say hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, guys.
So, do we tell them who our special guest bartender is, or should we go into
Well, they can just see him.
self-promotional stuff? Well, they can't if they're listening.
Well, they should get on
see them.
YouTube then.
They just have to use theater of the mind.
Oh.
Let's describe our guest. No, let's.
He's tall.
He's currently in Pennsylvania. How about that?
That is true.
That is very
He's
true.
he has a mustache.
Yes.
That is also true.
He is a he. What pronouns do you use?
Hey,
Also
he
true.
sounds just like Darty.
Yeah.
I mean, his voice a little bit.
Cheers.
You think?
Bingo.
Yep.
Our special
Sounds
guest
like-
today is Darty Hines. Hey, Darty, welcome to the show.
Hey, we're thrilled to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Darty, in case you don't know him, for those of you who don't know him, we're at the wedding reception. We're giving a speech. For those of you who don't know Darty, you know that. Come on, you guys haven't shot weddings for a while. That's the way every bridesmaid speech starts. But anyway, Darty was. You have to say if it is or was a photographer.
We'll go technically, we probably should say was.
Okay, we'll go with was. He's held cameras and people have given him money.
That is correct.
And that's not selling them in a back alley. He's actually taken photos and people have given him money. And it wasn't blackmail either. But currently he is
That's quite the introduction.
I'm thrilled to be here, like I said.
I could tell.
Yes.
But also, Darty is the, should we say, co-creator and founder of SYNC, the Senior Youth National Conference, which is coming up very soon.
It is coming up very soon. Yeah.
I should
Own it
probably
with
put that on my
wife.
calendar.
Yeah, because you are going to be there, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we are.
The last happy hour podcast I watched, you guys didn't even have rooms yet. So I'm hoping that has happened and you actually have a room at the resort.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
At the resort?
Yes.
Near the resort?
Somewhere near the resort.
Yeah.
It's near resort. Yes. Yeah.
Probably
we were a
closer
little.
to Rum Runner.
We
late.
missed the deadline. Yeah, we missed the deadline at the actual resort. But yes, in fact, I just got billed today for our resort, so you guys owe me some cash.
Wow.
Put it on my bill.
Yeah.
That's right. Add it to the tab. Go, Michael,
You were
go.
you were going to talk, so I'm just like, yeah. Okay. So we're having Darty here because we just thought it would be a good time to have a guest, and Darty is a perfect guest because, again, we have SYNC coming up, and he can give us some behind the scenes and stuff talking about that, and give us some of the trends you're seeing that speakers are doing now, what you like, what you don't like, because you're a guy who hires speakers. You see a lot of speakers. I know you like to go to conferences and see how people speak. Does that make sense?
Talk.
Sure.
Give the program,
Yeah.
see who's good, who's not so great.
I'll tell you how I find speakers. How about we start right there?
Sure.
I think that'd be good. Because a lot of times people want to speak and they don't even know how to begin or what to even do. So for me, because there's a lot of talk sometimes on social media about how when you go to conferences, you'll run into speakers who are quote unquote rock stars and all they're doing is getting up on the stage and selling you their mastermind group or whatever product of the month they have. And I'm not perfect. Obviously, no one's perfect. And sometimes we miss the mark, but most of the time I feel like we do a pretty good job at vetting who comes into SYNC. And we really we go through an application process for us. So I have an online application and that's open now because we're actually looking for speakers for 2023. So we work a year ahead of time all the time. And so there's an application process that you go through. And then once that's done, if I am interested in you as a speaker, then more than likely I'm going to call your primary printing lab and we're going to have a little conversation about how much business you actually do with the lab, because they'll tell you if you actually are working or not working. And so, and we have a really close relationship with the major labs. So we'll talk to them and get a little conversation going as far as like how legit is this business, because that's important to us. I mean, we do have, at Sync, sometimes we have inspirational speakers or motivational speakers, or just someone who's, doing photography, and maybe it's not about business, but if it's about business, we're going to investigate that a little bit and make sure that is something that's legit. Then once we do that, we'll go stalk the social media a little bit, just to kind of make sure that we're choosing and selecting people that kind of represent our brand and represent the people that we want on stage. And obviously everybody's got their own, their own belief system, and I understand that, but we obviously are kind of careful with who we bring into Sync, because we want to make sure that they match our core values. So we do that as well. So that's kind of the process for us, as far as trying to find those speakers and look for them. And then we get recommendations a lot. So, a lot of times people, I actually got one today. Somebody messaged me on Facebook and said, I'm at Imaging USA, and there's a speaker here that you should put on your list. Thankfully, I've already had that person kind of in mind, so that worked out really good. So, sometimes it comes from recommendations. Sometimes it comes from me just going someplace too, because I go to a lot of different shows and conventions, and, if I see somebody that's a good match, then we'll investigate that as well and try to get them to come to Sync.
Well, so it's cool that you do all that due diligence and make sure you've got quality speakers. So the big question I have is, how did the three of us actually make it through that vetting process?
That was before there was strict vetting processes in place. Maybe because of us, these policies were put into place.
I think Dan's got it right there. Once you guys spoke, I said, you know what? We need a whole new way of finding our speakers.
We need a policy.
Yeah, that's how policies happen, because something goes terribly wrong, and now there's a policy.
Now there's a policy.
A precedent has been set.
Yeah,
and we need to fix it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That is good.
And it's along with the speakers and stuff. Like, how do you see education kind of evolving? As it's been kind of crazy past 2 years, but I think as we get back to normal slowly, like in general, what do you see the trends kind of going towards, or what speakers are kind of focusing more on program wise?
Yeah, I can talk about us. For in general, we're a high school senior portrait photography conference. For 2022, we've got a combination show going on. So we've got high school seniors on one track, and we got youth sports schools, dance schools on the other track. So kind of like a volume kind of track going on. So, and then we have some programs that are together. So those would be all conference programs. We do that at the opening and at the closing. So when we're looking at kind of, to answer your questions about trends, I think I could say what we're not seeing. I think if you go back some years, you would see somebody who is getting up on stage. I was just talking to my wife, Michele, the co-founder of Sync. We talked about that earlier. I was just talking to her about that just the other day. We used to have every speaker wanted a table, so they could, after they were done speaking, they could go to their table and they could sell their products and they could sell whatever they were going to do. We don't really see that anymore. That's not something that's trendy for us as far as our show goes. I can't remember over the last probably 2 or 3 years if any speaker has asked for a table to sell products, which has been amazing. Now, some people still have something they sell, like a template or a download, and they might just do it from the stage. Here it's on the screen, use a QR code. We're seeing a lot of that, where if there's if they have like downloadable items, which that's kind of trendy right now, like, hey, we're going to talk about a price sheet. Here's my top 10 best tips for pricing, and you can download that just by scanning the QR code, and they'll throw a QR code up on the screen. So technology has come into it a little bit. We've seen some speakers who actually use your mobile device, where maybe they're doing polling, and they're during the program they're asking questions, and polling's happening live, and so they can kind of get those results and throw them up on the screen directly. So that's kind of been a trend. I think most conferences are throwing in some kind of hands-on. That's still kind of a popular thing, where there's photography going on where they're shooting and they're doing some hands-on or small groups. I mean, we like to call it small groups at our show, where because it may not be photography hands-on photography, but it might be a small group conversation, a discussion about a particular topic. So, and we like that. We like the fact that especially in the evenings, there's a lot of small group sessions that happen where you can kind of deep dive into something that's a little bit more to your liking or to something that maybe you need help with. Does that answer the question?
Absolutely. That's good stuff. Good stuff.
What was the question again?
Michael never pays attention.
No.
Yeah.
He's running the board,
I usually mute Dan, by the way, so that's... I think
one of the things, I'll chime in one more time too, on one of the things that we like to do at Sync. And it was interesting because I was talking to a vendor the other day, and he said to me, he was talking to some people that were thinking about going to Sync, but they looked at the lineup and they didn't know very many people. And my response back was that was speaking, and my response back was exactly. I did that on purpose because because what I don't want to do is go and see the same program over and over again. When I go to multiple shows, so I try very hard to go and select people that may not be the person that you're going to see on every stage, or you may not have heard about them. I mean, we have 20 plus speakers this year, and I would say, I'm going to guess with this number, it's not accurate, but I would say probably at least 10 to 12 of them have never been on a stage anywhere. And so their first gig will be at Sync. I mean, we've done that many times with speakers. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure Ben Shirk spoke for the first time at Sync. Terry Fody spoke for the first time at Sync. I mean, I can rattle off names of people that never spoke anywhere, and then they came to Sync and they spoke, and then their speaking kind of blew up from there. So yeah, I mean, I pride myself on actually hunting down people that are new, and again, go through that vetting process, going through the application process still, even though I'm getting brand new people, and taking a chance on them. And like I said, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss, and that's okay. We kind of keep the programs kind of short, an hour and a half. So they're not freaking out up there for 3 or 4 hours speaking. They can middle through that hour and a half.
And somebody doesn't have to be a fantastic public speaker. I mean, they still have information and knowledge and tips and tricks that they can share. So, you can get something from really anybody who's up there. Might spur an idea.
Yeah, I mean, really, I say it often. I say don't skip a class, because you never know when you're going to hear that $1 million idea that changes everything for you. And we hear that all the time. Like, people will come up to me at Sync in the hallway and go, that right there was worth the money, because that changed everything for me, because I didn't realize there was a better way or an easier way to do whatever I was doing. So I hear that often at Sync, where people will come up to me in the hallway and just be like, thank you so much for bringing in that speaker, because they really opened my eyes on whatever that thing was that they were struggling with, and it made a huge difference for them and changed everything for them.
On the other hand, that's usually what Dan says just after somebody comes into his class or his program late. Right?
That is my joke. Yeah, if someone comes walking in, especially if I know them, and I'm like, oh, and that's how you make $1 million with that one simple tip.
Yeah.
Or if they're leaving.
I've done that too, where I'm like, we're drawing door prizes, and I'll say, oh, we just gave away that brand new car. Sorry you missed it.
Yeah.
Serves them right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and along those lines, I think, like, I enjoy going every year. Just like you said, you pick up that one tip, or you're just being around so many creative people is very inspiring. In fact, my wife has come with me. She has nothing to do with the photography industry, but she just enjoys being around creative people, and she gets energized from that. And so she really understands why it's important for me to go as well. It's like to have that human interaction and that creativity and everything firing. And a lot of times I'll pick up one tip, like you said, and that's worth it. Or I'll be like, with something someone said, I'll like be inspired and write down 5 different ideas that had nothing really to do what they said, but something they said triggered my creativity to like, oh, I'm going to try this or do that, or what about this idea? So yeah, I think if you're not pulling anything away, I think maybe it's going to sound harsh, but you got to look inside a little bit. Like if you go in with an open mind and a positive attitude, like, and realize that not every speaker is going to give you 5 million ways to improve your business, but it's like, keep your eyes and ears open and then pull out those nuggets of information that are life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do that. Even it just cracks me up. Sometimes we're sitting in church and my wife will like nudge me and be like, oh my gosh, we got to do that for Sync, because we get an idea, inspiration comes from everywhere. We get an idea from that, or there's been times when we go to conferences that have nothing to do with photography, just to go and explore. For us, because we're event planners as well, we're going to get ideas as far as like, how do they run the conference, how do they run the event. But when you sit into the programs, you're just like, oh, yeah, it's for whatever this industry is, but how can I apply that to our industry, to the photography industry, or to conference industry, whatever that would be. So yeah, we do that quite often, trying to get ideas from anywhere we can go.
I've always said a lot of the value of education is, not only the speakers and the programs, but just networking with everybody there. And that's one of the things I've always been impressed with Sync, is it seems like people really network a lot, really, talk to other people, congregate, whereas at other conferences, people kind of go their own way. And there's kind of this whole family, once you become part of the Sync family, you are part of the family, and you tend to keep coming back. I imagine you see a lot of people who come back year and year after year versus, having to recreate the wheel every year with a whole brand new audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you run a conference or an event, what you don't ever want is cliques where people kind of go off on their own, and there's groups of people that don't include anybody else. And that's something that has always been something I struggled with, because I did not want that to happen at Sync from the very beginning. And thankfully, that's something that did not happen. Yeah, I mean, obviously you go there and you're going to see some friendships that you've built through the years, and they're close people to you and they're important to you, and you're going to go to dinner with them on occasion, just as your small little group. But it really, a great example of that is a couple years ago. It was it's pre-COVID, so it had been 2020. In 2020, we were in the main registration area in the front lobby, and we were standing there talking to some longtime Sync people. One of them was Carla Lynn, who's from the Nashville area, who spoke at Sync a couple years ago. And this young girl comes through that was a first timer. And Carla just turns around to her and grabs her kind of gently by the arm and pulls her into this little conversation and says, hey, I'm Carla Lynn, what's your name? And, they started this conversation, and just from that, they became pretty close friends over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, going to lunch together, going to dinner together. And I often say, I don't know why it happened, but I'm glad it did. But there's some of the friendliest photographers go to Sync. And, if you go to Sync and you don't meet somebody new, and this is probably true at any conference, I'm just using Sync as the example because it's ours. But, if you go to any conference and you don't make a connection with somebody, that's probably on you, because you didn't put yourself out there. You've got to put yourself out there a little bit and say hi to somebody. I mean, if you're sitting at a restaurant or at the bar and there's somebody else with a Sync name tag on, just start a conversation with them, and and really just kind of just get talking to somebody, and you never know where that's going to lead, and hopefully it'll lead to a friendship or some sort of this connection that you might have over a certain product line, or maybe you got a common interest in something that you do at your studio. Maybe you both of you do daycare photography, and you start talking about that. It has nothing to do with high school seniors, but yet you're still connecting in some other level, where you can kind of get those conversations going. So that happens a lot at Sync, and I'm happy for that, because it's something that we as show owners can't make that happen. That happens on its own. That is something that the attendees bring to Sync. It's not that we're doing that ourselves.
Well, I kind of disagree with you on that, Darty. It really does come back to what you're doing and how you structure everything. I mean, just your decorations, the swag, the comfy couches for everybody to sit on, your worship service, which is rocking, by the way. I mean, all of those are the things that attracts just that same point. It attracts the idea of the attendees being able to talk to each other or have the places to network and to meet each other. Some of the conferences you go to, those just don't exist. And I think that's why it's easier. It's easier for me. I mean, I've told people this in the past, but I have a hard time meeting people one-on-one, and it's not as bad at Sync at all. It's more of a comfortable place to talk about our industry. And I think that's on you guys. I mean, for putting the potential there for that to happen. But like, I agree. If you're listening and you're thinking about going to any convention or to Sync, it's on you. It's everything about life is what you put into it, and this is no exception. If you're not going to put anything into it from your end, you're not going to get as much back, and that's just the way it works in everything, but especially in photography. So dive in head first, and if it's too deep, grab a snorkel, whatever. But
yeah.
And
so,
well, I appreciate that.
I'll
Carl.
kind of go.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I'll kind of add to that with the fact that your conference, Sync's conference, is usually around 400 or so people. So it is, like Carl said, more of a community. You set up community type bonding and things too. So it's if you want something this is the way I talk about it when people ask is if you want a smaller kind of networking group that focuses on seniors, that's the conference to go to. There's other conferences as well, and they're larger, and that they have their benefits as well. So it's kind of determining what works best. The same thing when someone, like when I worked the MoLight booth at for Michael, someone says, "What flash should I get?" I'm like, I don't say here's what flash. I ask them, you forgot seniors, you forgot, learn more about what they want, and then kind of direct them, because I've been to a few conferences in my time, so I can kind of point that out. But yeah, just launching off the same things Carl was saying, and real quick too, one other thing I like to do, and a tip I give is, and I've told Carl and Michael this too, I'm like, I'm going out to eat with someone else for lunch. I see you guys all the time. No offense, but I purposely go out and be like, hey, go up to someone, do you want to go out to lunch? Like, I want to purposely hang with different groups of people. And so that you have to be a little more extroverted for that. But like Carl said, the more you put into it, you're gonna just grow your friend list and your knowledge base, because you're around different interests and hobbies and likes and business policies. So,
yeah, I had a attendee tell me a couple years ago. She came up to me like after lunch, and I don't remember the name, so I'm just going to use you guys' names. But she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a first timer, and I just went to lunch with Carl Caylor and Dan Frievalt and Michael Mowbray." Like, she was so pumped. I forget who it was that she went to lunch with, but it was like, in her mind, it was some people that were pretty big deals, which is cool, And she was like, "They just invited me over to the table," and I was like, "Who, me?" And she was so excited about that, which was really cool. I was glad to hear that, because I use Gary Box for an example sometimes, where he always says that when he comes to Sync, well, and I think that's true wherever he goes, but you will see him in the crowd taking notes. Like, he's sitting and he's been in the business for 110 years and pretty much teaches anything that you could know. Like, if you need to know something, Gary Box knows it. However, he's sitting in class with a notepad open, taking notes and trying to, even get better than he already is. So I think that is a testament to the kind of people that come to Sync. Like, you're going to see the speakers that were on stage sitting in the audience, taking notes and watching and learning just along with you, which is really cool.
One of my favorite things that happened at Sync, and it happened at least twice now, maybe more. I know 2 for sure. Sitting down with an attendee, designing their new camera room, designing their new building that they haven't even started building yet. But because of talking about, building my own place, my own camera room, they wanted a natural light place, and what would we do, and what would you do different in this time? And it's been really cool to help design at least 2 camera rooms while at Sync, alongside all the other things that we've had the opportunity to play with there. But that was just kind of a fun thing over the time as well.
That's cool, and that's in Carl's next program.
No, Darty, you beat me to it. I was about to say, and after the podcast, stay tuned to download Carl's workshop, or Carl's mastermind on how to build your ideal camera room in the 5 easy steps.
There you go. Six steps. Six.
Oh, 6 steps.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't talked about yet, and Dan had kind of touched on, is another, I think, amazing benefit of the show is the trade show. Because obviously there's a lot of education and a lot of networking, but there are only so many places where you can go in one place and go meet some of the vendors you've heard about online and other friends have used and actually see their product and all that kind of stuff. In other years, oh gee, I wonder who they could go see. You can go touch and sniff and lick their products. Now, in a time of pandemic, I just assume you not. Yeah. No. You could do it from 6 feet away, but the trade show is one of the better trade shows in the entire country.
Well, thank you. I will take full credit for that because I worked my butt off to get those vendors there. It is not, if anybody's ever run any kind of conference that has exhibitors, it is not easy to get exhibitors to commit. And I think, thankfully for us, our reputation precedes ourselves. So, we bring in pretty qualified people. I always say qualified buyers are coming into the show that, have been in business for a while. They're not, there's nothing against a hobbyist, because I feel like you can come to Sync as a hobbyist and grow into a professional and grow into other things. So we welcome everybody of all skill levels. But the majority of our crowd is not somebody who's just there as a looky-loo. They're there who's somebody who's important. Business is important to them, and they need to grow their business. And you know what? If you're skipping out on a trade show, you're missing out on a huge part of participating at Sync, because that is some of the best education you're going to get by just going in and talking to vendors. Because they're there to talk about their products, services, sales, whatever, but they're also going to help you as a photographer. They're going to help you grow, and so many of them really want you to, because when you grow, it comes back and it helps them as well. It's a big circle. I talk about that sometimes when I speak, at different photography conferences. I talk about the circle of photography industry, and it's the attendees who go to the vendors, and the vendors support the shows, and the shows support the vendors, and all that kind of circles together, and that's how that works. So I love the trade show. I've always been a trade show junkie. I think it's an amazing place to go and just, I love seeing all the products. And again, it's kind of like we were talking about with speakers, that you sometimes will hear an idea that maybe doesn't have anything to do with photography, but it inspires you. That happens to us too. When we go to whatever trade show in whatever industry, you walk through there and you're just like, oh, cool, look at that. How can I use that in photography? How can I use that in my business? And that happens all the time. Absolutely.
Hey, one more thing that is veering away from trade show and the speakers and everything else. Again, another big passion of mine is the print competition, which Sync has. And that deadline is coming up really soon, so get your stuff together. But, it's a lot of people kind of worry about print competition. And it's the same whether it's at, the PPA level or Sync or anywhere else. I always hear the same thing. Oh my gosh, it's so intimidating. No, it shouldn't be intimidating. Nobody knows whose images are whose. And it's for all of us to learn, not just from our work, but from everybody else's, and everybody can learn from ours. So again, in the Sync world, it's our new byline there, our Sync world. But I think there's been a lot of work. I know behind the scenes that's going on that's trying to help make that even a better process than what print competition is in any other platform, giving us more feedback, giving attendees or entries more discussion. I think that's going to be a really, really, really cool thing and very educational for everybody that partakes in it. But something for everybody to remember when it comes to print competition is that this isn't trying to make people in the lay audience go ooh and ah over your photography. It's not the fair where everybody walking by, gives you a blue ribbon or a red ribbon. Or whatever. It's not what this is about.
Cow. Yeah.
Well, I guess, or a pig. A good pig can bring that too. Now it got me thinking of pork tenderloins. Anyway,
Bacon.
But yeah, bacon.
Bacon.
Bacon. But you know, the thing is, when you're thinking about a professional print competition in our industry, it's about showing off for the high end of photographers to the peers in photography, and so it's a whole different situation. So what might sell for you and what might make you good money in your business isn't always the things that make heads turn with their peers in this industry. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at your print competition entries. But definitely, it's the best education out there. Put your work on the line, and like I said, you don't get much back if you don't put it in. So,
and you know what? Somebody's got to win. Somebody's got to win that trophy.
It does. Right. They do.
And it's always kind of comes back to cool stories. And I think it was 3 or 4, probably 4 years ago now. Man, time flies. And Meta McConnell entered, and she won the Breakout Photographer of the Year, which Breakout Photographer of the Year for us is someone who's been in business for 3 years or less. And so then the judges will pick a winner out of those entries of people that are 3 years or less in business. And I remember because she was a first timer as well, which is really cool. And her name is like Mette, and I wasn't sure how to spell it. And so me being my sly self, I just went up to her like she was sitting. It was before a program was starting, and I caught it out of my corner of my eye. She was sitting there with some people chatting, and I just went over and introduced myself, and I was just like, what's your name? What's your name? And so that way I knew that when she said her name to me, I knew how to pronounce it when I said the winner. So she's like, Meta, and I was like, oh, it's Meta, good. I wasn't sure if it was Met or me. I wasn't sure how she pronounced that. So I was just like, yeah, cool. And then man, when she won, I still see that picture in my head, like. Her expression and her shock and awe was just incredible. It was probably one of my favorite sync moments over the last probably 10, 15 years. Well, we've only been doing it for 14 years, so 10 years. It's been one of my favorite moments, seeing her. I mean, and our photographer caught that moment. It was like that. The capture of that moment was awesome. I still love that picture. It just, every time I look at it, it makes me smile because she was just like so thrilled and so excited. And I'm just like, you know what? Someone's got to win those trophies. Why not you? It's just like the Powerball. Someone's got to win the Powerball. Why not you?
I always thought Breakout Photographer of the Year was whoever did the best job of retouching zits.
That's a whole different category.
Oh, okay.
We don't have that category.
I have a better understanding now. Well, the only thing I would tag into what you were saying, Carl, and I think this helps people who are thinking about entering, is one difference with the sync print competition, because Carl and I have judged, and I think we're both judging this year, maybe, yes? I don't know, something like that. Is that we do look at, I mean, it's not exactly the same thing as entering imaging, or not imaging, IPC or districts or whatever in PPA, because everything's kind of looked at through the lens of senior photography in the context of that. So some things that maybe wouldn't merit at IPC, might be a strong merit at the sync competition because we take in the context of seniorship.
And what's going on right now. The relevance.
Exactly.
The relevance of what's going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. Yeah, and you guys both are judging, correct?
Yes.
Oh, well, good.
Well,
okay, I guess I'll be there. No, wait, it's virtual.
So if your prints don't do well, you know who to also talk to.
Exactly.
Darty.
Or I was trying to keep that a secret, but cat's out of the bag.
Well, and you bring up a good
for all 12
point.
Listeners, yeah.
Yeah. You bring up a good point, Michael, because I look at any kind of print competition as I'm first competing against myself, and I'm like education. I want to like learn from the experience, and that's really where IPC, it's based on merits and educating and earning degrees. When sync, it's more, like you said, relevant, and if it's more fashion forward or trendy or things and catches the eye, so it's two different types of competition, but ultimately, like Carl said, just think of what you put into it and what you're going to get out of it as far as education wise, and don't get down on yourself. Like, no one even knows you had to enter.
Now, we spent all this time talking about sync, but one thing we haven't told our listeners, very important information, and this isn't necessarily a wrap, although we probably could wrap after this if we wanted to, how do people find out more about Sync? What's the website? What are the dates? Where the heck is this thing? All that kind of stuff, because they're like, what's this Sync thing? You know, it's like, they can go Google it.
Yeah.
But let's make it easy.
Is that what's in your bathroom? What?
The sink in the kitchen too. We have one in our kitchen.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just saying.
Well,
Yeah,
you're
it's Sync,
fancy.
SYNC. SYNC, and it's Senior and Youth National Conference, which works out really good this year with our dual stage setup, because the Y could, it usually stands for youth, but it can stand for youth sports this year. So because there will be a track about youth sports and high school sports and dance schools. It's another topic. School portraits. There's Erica Morrow coming to speak, and does school pictures like I've never seen before. Super fun expressions, and it's just really kind of a casual versus the life touch in front of a traditional background kind of a situation. Hers are more loose and casual, which is really cool. So yeah, there's two tracks. Excuse me. And so if you want to come and you want to just kind of focus on high school seniors the entire time, you can do that. If you want to focus on volume and sports and schools and dance schools, you can go to the blue stage. If you want to float back and forth, you can do that as well. There'll be some combination classes where we're all together with like keynotes, and the keynotes, one of them is Jeff Henderson, who was there in 2020, and we're bringing him back. He's got a follow-up program that's going to be amazing. He's really, really good speaker. He used to work for Chick-fil-A marketing team, so he's going to be dynamic. You're going to love him. And then at the end, we have Danny Diamond, who's an amazing retoucher and a fashion photographer, which, not a senior photographer, not a youth sport photographer, but a fashion photographer, which is okay because we're all going to learn from him some of his tips and techniques that he uses. He talks about his retouching in less than 12 minutes kind of a situation. So I'm excited to see that. So all that information, all about the trade show, all of the things that happen at Sync, the events, the parties, and all that stuff, you can get at synkrocks.com. Super easy, super simple. Synkrocks.com. It is February the 18th through the 21st, and it's in beautiful Destin, Florida.
Yes.
Where it's a lot warmer than here. Just saying.
Well, I watched the temperatures, and over the last couple weeks, it's only been in the like mid 50s, which that's still warmer than where we are. However, it's not like because if those who aren't familiar where Destin is, it's actually, I always say it's really not in Florida, it's in Alabama, because it's like out on the outskirts of the Panhandle, and it's literally probably an hour from the Alabama line. So it's it's kind of in that stretch of Florida that's kind of way out there on the west side of Florida, and so it's not going to be 75, 80 degrees. Well, it might be, I don't know. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It just really depends on the weather. So, but yeah, it's always nice. It's just maybe, don't think you're coming to Key West. It's not Key West, Florida.
Historical temperatures, I looked this up the other day. Historical temperatures for Destin that time of the month is mid 60s.
Yeah.
60s highs, lows maybe in the mid to high 40s. So
Yeah, and I remember a couple years ago, somebody said to me, they were like, it's a 60-degree difference from wherever they came from. It was like 0. When they got to Sync, it was 60 degrees. They're like, they were in shorts and t-shirts, and then all the locals are like, they got scarves on and hats on, so they were freezing. But the people that come in from out of town, especially from the north area, they're all like dressed in like their flip-flops and shorts, and it just cracks me up.
I remember a number of years ago speaking in Orlando in January, and I think I left, it was 20 below here, and when I got there, it was 80. So it was like 100-degree difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, it was a little shocking.
We don't want to see Michael in shorts, though. Just,
What do you mean?
FYI.
Shin flectors? I got the shin flectors.
No.
I no longer
just
have
say
any
no.
pigment whatsoever in my legs, so I cast a lot of uplight. It's great.
Yeah. So if we need a reflector for a jumpstart class, we can bring in Michael's shins.
Hey, we should probably talk about a jumpstart class, what that is.
Yeah, that's our, some people call it pre-convention classes. Many, many, many years ago, probably 2010. We started this thing in 2009, so this is our 14th year. So I think it was like 2010. I was looking for a name, and Kevin Harrington out of Michigan, he's a longtime photographer friend of mine. We were chatting about it, and he actually named it Jumpstart, which I thought was a great title for our PreCon classes. So it's a Jumpstart class, so it's a full day, happens on the day of Sync. So Sync starts technically on Friday night. So it starts usually around 7 o'clock in the evening. But during the day, there's pre-con classes, jumpstart classes that go from 9 to 4. And we've got 3 this year. We always try to have 3 or 4 different classes. So we have 3 this year. We've got Garen Cooper, who's going to be talking about video. His Friday class is sold out, so you can't get into Friday. But we have maybe 1 or 2 spots left. We added a Thursday class for him because it was that popular. So I got a couple spots in there for Thursday, probably only 2. And then Christy Bradley, she's out of Virginia, and does amazing senior work. She's doing an entire program on just building the entire senior process, your model team, all those things that kind of go into the marketing side of things and running the senior business. It's going to be fabulous. I just heard from her today, and she's adding over a 40-page workbook that she's values around $500 that you're going to get for free just for going to her class. It's brand new. It's never been anywhere. So it's a brand new workbook that she's putting together exclusively for Sync in that class, and she'll launch it from there, which is cool. And then we got Ryan Sims, who is this incredible composite Photoshop guy who is actually from the cosplay world. So I found him by accident through Instagram and kind of search. And then I noticed he had some mutual friends like Josh Hanna and some other guys, that do some compositing. And so one thing kind of led to another thing too. It was that's how we find speakers sometimes, kind of back to our original, what we were talking about at the beginning. Sometimes I'm just scrolling through Instagram. I mean, that happened. We got a new guy coming this year, Gavin Ward, and Miller's is his sponsor. And they posted something that he did in his studio. And I was like, who's Gavin Ward? And I went, Gavin Ward over here to Instagram, and we started searching it through, and then I called up Miller's, Deborah Radelt Miller's, and talked to her about Gavin Ward, and now he's speaking at Sync because of something I just happened to see on Instagram. And that's the same thing that's happened with Ryan Sims. I mean, I kind of found him kind of by accident, and then we kind of connected through there. And seriously, go look at his Instagram feed. If you like Spider-Man, Batman, if you like superheroes in general, that's kind of his forte. That's what he does. He goes to Comic Cons and all these places, and he sets up a background and sets up lights and shoots all these cosplayers, and then he takes those images and does them into all these amazing composites. And he's doing that, but he's actually going to do it kind of, how can you use that with high school seniors and athletes? And he's actually going to photograph an athlete and then take some of those techniques that he uses with his superhero cosplay stuff and throw it into athletes and senior portraits. So I think It's going to be amazing. If I wasn't running the show, I'd be in that class because I think it's going to be he's hilarious too, by the way. He's so funny. And, so he did a little sneak peek, little video for us at 2021 Sync, just a little 20-minute little video he sent us. And when I watched it the first time, I was just cracking up because he just has this really quirky sense of humor. So it's going to be a fun, entertaining class for sure. I think everybody that's in there is going to just really have a good old time.
Awesome.
So
that video was awesome.
It was great.
Any final thoughts people should know about Sync? Things they should be doing right now? Why they should be going online and booking?
Well, listen, here's what I've been in this business for a long time. I've been in this business since 1992. So, and I've been to, countless Imaging USAs. I've been to countless state organizations. I've been to other, back when Heart of America was a thing, I went to that.
You've given programs.
I've given programs. Stage, Yes, I've been on the main stage, the big stages, the small stages, the whole thing. And I've always said, yes, Sync is our baby, and that's how we make a living. And I would love it if everybody comes to Sync and, it supports the show and supports the vendors and the speakers and us as, because that is our industry, that is our job. However, more importantly to me is that you do something educational wise, and I'm going to probably step on a toe or two, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do something that's in person, that is at a live event. Yes, there is some amazing stuff online, and you should do that as well, but it is important for you to get with your kind of people, to get with like-minded individuals, to actually see them, to be able to talk to them face to face, because when you're on Facebook and you're getting advice, you don't know who that advice is coming from. You don't know how they're saying it. It could be sarcastic, it could be truthful. You have no idea because you're just reading text. But when you're sitting with people at a restaurant or at the bar or in a Sync lounge or sitting waiting for classes to start, and you can actually have real conversations with actual people, that you can look at and see and listen and hear from and talk to. I think that's so important. So I've always said, I don't care where you go, go someplace. There's a lot of good education out there that's live and in person. Get yourself there. I'd love it if you come to Sync, and that'd be awesome. Please come to Sync. But if it's not for you, because it's not for everybody, let's just be honest. I mean, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. We're okay with that. But if it is for you, come to this. But if it's not for you, then find something that is, and go support photography education in person, especially those events that have nice trade shows or even has a small trade show, because you're supporting everything. Because when we all work together, that's how this industry survives and thrives. When we don't work together, it's going to fall apart, and we don't want that to happen. Because I like seeing all you guys and everybody else at the shows. So I don't want that to ever not happen. I enjoy going and seeing friends and being able to go out to dinner or lunch or just for a drink or whatever that case would be, and being able to connect with people. So it's important. It's important to support those live events, in-person events.
Well said. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, the Photo Happy Hour is sponsored in part by MoLight, Innovation and Integration in Photographic Lighting, and by Seniors Unlocked, featuring education, overlays, brushes, textures, and more for your photography. Learn more at store.seniorsunlocked.com, and by Carl Caylor's one-on-one and group mentoring. You can contact Carl through his website at photoimagesbycarl.net. So, thanks for listening, everyone. Be sure to check out both our online audio podcast and our YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please like and subscribe. And until next time, cheers to you.
Cheers.
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 Ah, yes. By the time you have finished listening to this podcast, you will have come to the realization that your life would be more complete if you subscribed. Reach your full potential by subscribing now.